Hello and welcome to this edition of Beyond the Politics, our regular examination of the events that are happening right around here in the Quinte region and the people who work so hard behind the scenes to make it all happen. I'm your host, Paul Martin. Joining me, a fairly frequent guest of the show, Ward 2 Councilor in the city of Belleville, Councilor Paul Carr.
Thanks for having me, Paul. Appreciate it.
It's been a busy fall, and I was remarking before, as we were leading up to the show, a lot of events happening in October specifically, and you were connected to actually quite a few of them. We'll start with something a little more lighthearted in that we had a large delegation go over to visit our sister/twin city of Lahr, Germany. Among those staying behind and making sure the city was running properly was yourself, Deputy Mayor and Acting Mayor during that period of time. So what goes into that decision-making process, and then what is it like? Is it different when you're the Acting Mayor when the Mayor is not actually on the continent?
Well, we rotate that responsibility so everybody has equal opportunity. Obviously sometimes you could be in signing bylaws on behalf of the mayor, things of that nature, but it's just to ensure that there's some continuity there and attending a lot of events and things of that nature. You know, there's a big demand on the mayor to be at a lot of ribbon cuttings and different events. So the calendar gets a little fuller when you're taking on those responsibilities as well. So I know it's all good though.
How important is that relationship? I mean, it's one of these things that, of course, whether it be the city or whether it be the individual councillors, there's time and money that's spent to maintain that connection to Lahr, Germany, which has great historical context over the 5+ decades it's now been in effect. But what does that mean to the city? And both from a cultural and a personal standpoint, what does that connection to Lahr still mean today?
Well, it's important to look at our past in terms of that relationship, you're right, but to have a relationship, you need to foster it. And so you need to maintain that relationship. So having those connections, experiencing the culture, and again, this was a friendship flight, so some residents of Belleville went there, and everybody stayed with host families, if you will, and so you really integrate into the culture, which is a little different than if you were to show up say in Germany and stay in a hotel. You still get the culture, but it's not the same as as experiencing in people's homes. So, and that goes to show the level of connection that the two communities have, which is excellent. So those are important to continue to foster, remember our past, but also look at opportunities for the future as well. And, we live in a day and age where business crosses borders all the time. And so you never know who you're going to run into or what opportunities or conversations may come forward. So, those are always good as well.
Now, while we sent some councillors and some citizens overseas to Lahr, around the same time, a group from Lahr was going not just to Belleville, but right across Eastern Ontario, Canada in general, and stopped at City Hall. You had a chance to basically give them a tour. What was that like? Yeah,
so it was actually interesting because one of the leads of that tour was actually the gentleman who nominated former Councillor Jackie Deniers for the award she received in Germany. So I think there was a little disconnect in terms of the timing. So he and his group show up for a visit and had an opportunity to take them through City Hall, and they were really impressed with the architecture there and things of that nature. And we talked a lot about our climate here and local economy and what we're experiencing and things of that nature, affordability. And it's interesting, we had those conversations. We all experience the same thing regardless of where we are on the globe. It's the same concerns about affordability, the future generation, things of that nature, economy working well. So quite interesting to have those conversations. So just happened to work out that I was acting mayor and was here to take him on a tour.
Well, thank you for doing that, and thank you for our delegation and everyone who was fortunate enough to go over to our sister/twin city of Lahr, Germany, and thank you to all the citizens of Lahr for doing such a fantastic job of hosting us and making us feel welcome. Back here in Belleville, Belleville's been even in the provincial news over the course of the fall, including the expansion of the Strong Mayor program, which expanded to include communities of 50,000 people or more, which of course now includes the rapidly expanding, fastest growing in all of Ontario by percentage, Belleville census over census. So tell us about that. There was a motion that you brought forward, and it was a little misunderstood, including, to be fair, by myself. What was the nature of the motion you were making? Because as part of this, the province was trying to extend strong mayor powers, in case people aren't completely familiar. Strong mayor powers, if accepted by a community, set targets, which if reached can result in extra funding, $2.4 million for Belleville, if I'm not mistaken. Along with that, it gives the mayor specifically a large range of additional powers, including sole discretion over things like hiring and firing, the ability to prepare the budget without council, veto power on some things, and the ability to get motions regarded to housing passed with less than a majority. So it's quite a sizable shift in the power structure of any individual council for whom these powers were accepted, which Belleville has agreed to sign on for the financial incentive. What was the motion you brought forward in connection with this, and what was the goal of it?
Well, the motion was simple. Maybe the word, part of it was the program and how it's a little convoluted. In essence, council didn't have the authority to say no to the strong mayor powers. It was totally up to the mayor to accept them or decline them. And that's right in the legislation. But council, as you know, from time to time expresses a view or provides an opinion to the province on a whole variety of issues. And this was one of them where I felt that it was important that each democratically elected individual around that table had an opportunity to speak to it and to share their views, and then we vote at it collectively as a council in terms of whether we think it's a good idea. And so that, in essence, was the motion. And then also to untie it from the Building Faster Fund and Access 2 funds. Quite simply, while there might be communities out there that are an obstacle to growth, ours is not one of them. And if you look at our track record in terms of our approvals, where we make decisions as elected officials, we have not said no to any zoning whatsoever when it came to residential development. So the strong mayor powers weren't necessary. And then two, the Building Faster Fund should be based on housing targets. And then, and then I've had more to say on that in terms of how we actually get evaluated. So I think it was a way for the province to download responsibility for the 1.5 million homes, because we're already hearing now that the projections are that they're not going to meet that target. We're way low across the province. We're way low this year. Now the province has somebody to blame, right? They've downloaded the responsibility, but they've also downloaded the accountability and the blame. So if they don't meet their targets, and I'm thinking, 2026 from a political perspective, you're going into a provincial election, you haven't met your targets. Well, it's like we gave the mayors all the power they need and they didn't succeed, so it's their fault.
Capacity, it's up and running and we'll keep scaling up. What does that mean, not just to the city of Belleville as a whole, but to this region? Well,
it demonstrates that multinational corporations and leading corporations want to invest in our city and in the region. And so certainly that presence there has other companies, kind of kicking the tires on Belleville or the Quinte region. And, even if a company invests in Quinte West, for example, anywhere in the region, it benefits all of us, right? We don't necessarily live in the exact same place where we work, so more regional view is a good one. And so, no, it's excellent, and certainly it's a good size commercial space, industrial commercial space. So it is good investment for our city as well.
And of course, inexorably tied with Amazon is the BEAR, the Belleville East Arterial Route or Road, depending on which version you like. And Amazon's already begun working about that as far as moving it out, because of course they're going to be one of the many beneficiaries who get to use that route and take traffic away from coming out of the industrial park and into Highway 37. So is it also a great example of how an investment of that kind can spur other developments and other improvements in the community?
Oh, absolutely. When the suggestion was made that they would start laying the groundwork for that road and the arterial road, it certainly makes it easier, and then it certainly puts the onus now on the province that okay, we've got this road here, now we need the interchange lined up, and hopefully the 401 redevelopment occurs. Whether that interchange is there or not, the 401 is way past due in terms of its current build out in terms of the volume of traffic. So obviously lane expansion is critical, even from a safety perspective, but then adding that interchange will be so significant. The amount of traffic that will come off of Canifton Road North and College Street, Adams Street, all the truck traffic will be diverted. It'll be much easier for the trucking companies as well. The last thing you really want to do is mix in local traffic. Once you're loaded, it's get on the road and get moving. So that'll work out well.
And changes like that, especially major changes in what traffic flow is in a community, have great long-term implications. We have Mayor Neil Ellis. The last time Neil Ellis was mayor, of course, we had the Veterans Memorial Bridge, which completely transformed the way that traffic moves on the north side of the city today. Do you feel this will have a similar impact to that?
Absolutely. Like I just said, you know, with diverting the truck traffic in its own location for its specific purpose and not mixing necessarily with local traffic, will make a big difference from a public safety perspective as well. There's all kinds of speeding that occurs on Canifton Road North. We made that a community safety zone. If all goes well next year, we'll have automated speed enforcement through that area. Getting that truck traffic off is critical. And you know, as our city grows, we have to recalibrate how we move around the community. And so building bridges and new roads and diverting traffic to different areas is all necessary, and it's a sign of a growing city.
As the city grows, of course, other things get developed, some things get redeveloped. So there's the Memorial Marketplace project, which has now seen its first business move in to the corner location. Shout out to the people at Benji's Coffee Bar, who just opened over the course of the last couple of weeks. How great a sign is that to see something, because I mean, that entire project sat for a long period of time. There was the public consultation, then finally a plan comes up, then finally there's an approved plan, and now finally it seems like things are starting to happen. Especially since it's right on the doorstep of City Hall, how important is that? Well,
very important. You know, when you see that building there and the potential, and we knew it had potential as a recalibrated space, it was just a matter of time to get the ball rolling, and you know, leaving it to the private sector to do it. We can't do everything. We need the private sector to invest. And so, you know, the good story here is that Benji's Coffee Bar and Ben Battleland, who's the owner, started out in the pop-ups. Mm-hmm. And so here's a success story where, you know, the pop-ups have generated a business to the point where a committed space, a permanent space can be had. And the work that's been done over there is just phenomenal. It really dresses it up. And now that you have one tenant in there, I think now you'll start seeing where other people and other businesses will go, you know what? That's actually a pretty good space. And so it's like anything else, you need something just to start, and then others will certainly join. So I'm excited to see what it'll be full development. And again, it adds a little bit more activity and busyness in downtown, and that's what we need, right? We need the people coming and going and staying and all the rest of it. So more choice and more business, the better. This has been a special edition of Beyond the Politics with Belleville Councilor Paul Carr.